So it's been a few days, and we have had some updates on the newest Montreal Canadiens first-round brute, their 26th overall pick in this most recent draft, Gleb Pugachyov. Let's dive into some of the latest with Pugachev and his development, where he has been, literally, and some of the red flags that have been brought up about his game from various people in the Montreal Canadiens media landscape. So obviously, we all know the story here. Pugachev was Montreal's first-round draft pick that the Habs and Kent Hughes traded up in order to draft in 2026. He ain't the most productive guy, but he's definitely the most physical, the most dangerous, the most brutal draft pick out of this year's selection of guys. And earlier this month, we saw Pugachev score an empty net goal against Avtomobilist in the MHL. This was posted out here by Dylan Griffin, who does stuff at Elite Prospects for Russian prospects. He's been doing Russian scouting for years. He does some great work. Griffin is one of the best in the game when it comes to keeping up with the Russian folk. And Pugachev scoring an MHL preseason empty net goal was quite interesting. Here is what Pat Guillet went out there and said. He does stuff for donlescoulisses.com. Gleb Pugachev's goal was scored in the MHL. According to my colleague, Michael Petit, the fact that he played a preseason game in the MHL does not mean that he has been demoted. It is quite common in the KHL to send 18-year-old prospects to play in the MHL when they're a few days off between two preseason games. So, for the moment, when it comes to the Canadiens' Russian prospect, rumors of him getting demoted should be taken with a grain of salt. And I didn't necessarily think about this as one of the issues, quote-unquote, with Gleb Pugachyov and his development, like, oh, he's playing an MHL preseason game. Is that a bad thing that he's not with the KHL team? Well, not necessarily. We see KHL teams sending young dudes, especially 18-year-olds, to the MHL pretty often. And so anybody who's worried about Pugachev and where he is going to play this upcoming season, I'm here to tell you it's probably not that big of a deal. And in fact, we already had ourselves some positive updates on Pugachev being in the KHL, as Torpedo went out there and posted this on their Instagram account earlier on the weekend. It's Gleb Pugachyov doing some weighted pull-ups over there with some weights and a chain right there on his belt strap. Pretty masculine thing to be seeing an 18-year-old Russian prospect doing. Obviously, we know that the Russians, they take their training very seriously, practically and with the equipment. Gleb Pugachyov is already back in the Continental Hockey League. It's important to remember that Pugachev, unlike Ivan Demidov 2 years ago and Alexander Zhuravsky last year, is not guaranteed to spend the whole year in the KHL. He was even seen playing in the MHL preseason in recent days. But the good news is we can still expect him to play at least a little in the KHL this year, and apparently that could happen sooner than expected, because he's already back with the team. This is something that I think Canadiens fans might need to start getting used to as it pertains to Gleb Pugachev and what we had seen over the past few years. Demidov and Zhuravsky were so damn good and so productive that they kind of demanded KHL playing time right away after getting drafted. I mean, just look at it right here. Demidov was at 2 points a game in the MHL upon being drafted by the Canadiens, and then he spent the entire year in the Continental Hockey League as the undisputed best player on SKA St. Petersburg, despite not getting playing time like that player probably should. Meanwhile, Alexander Zhuravsky, he was over a point per game in the MHL as well when he was drafted by the Habs, and sure, 50 points in 45 games is not the same as Demidov's 60 points in 30, but Zhuravsky was already really good, he was super productive, and he was given top-tier power play time in the Continental Hockey League in year one, which is very rare for a junior player. That's what Zach Fucale was saying earlier this month, too. By the way, it's already been a year. Somebody give Alexander Zhuravsky a profile picture, eh? For Gleb Pugachyov, when he was drafted out of the MHL, he was sub-point per game. Now, there is a little bit of a difference because he actually had more points in the KHL and more playing time in the KHL than Demidov and Zhuravsky did when these guys were draft eligible. Zhuravsky had 7 playoff games with Salavat Yuleyev Ufa upon his draft year. Ivan Demidov had 4 SKA St. Petersburg games. Gleb Pugachyov had 13 Torpedo games. It's not necessarily because he's better, but it's because Pugachev plays a style that is a lot more translatable to an immediate top-level league play. It's not like they were putting him into Torpedo's lineup because, oh wow, this guy's so amazing, he's going to score a ton of points. It was like, this guy is a physical specimen, and we think that that deserves to be played in our lineup because he can genuinely torture the opposition. Gleb Pugachev ain't being drafted and developed because they think he's going to be the next Demidov. He's not going to get 60 points in his rookie year. He's not going to be a Calder finalist, and he's not going to be a guy who exhibits top-tier power play-like potential. Pugachev is going to be everything else you need in a hockey player. And that is why seeing him go down to the MHL, playing a game or two in the preseason, is not that big of a deal because he'll be back up with the KHL at some point. He'll be up and down, in and around both of these leagues. He probably even gets VHL time mixed in there as well. Now, speaking about Pugachev in that MHL game, this is where we talk about some of the opinions. Grant McKegg on his Habs cast went out there and talked about on his broadcast how Gleb Pugachyov has not looked like a first-round pick just yet. And because this is a long video, you can go out there and watch the Habs cast yourself if you want to. Let's just go over this article from MontrealHockeyFanatics.com that summarizes the Grant McKegg commentary. Speaking of Pugachev, former scout Grant McKegg was not impressed by the way he had played in the preseason. McKegg believes the Canadiens' prospect looks a little slow. His skating and pace haven't convinced him so far, and the numbers aren't helping. In 3 MHL games, Pugachev has only scored 1 goal into an empty net while posting a -2 rating. Nobody expects Pugachev to become an offensive machine, but for a first-round pick playing at the junior level, McKegg had expected more. 6 goals over his last 41 games is still a thin total. McKegg then went out there and noticed some other things about Pugachev's game. He drew some Arbor Xhekaj comparisons over discipline concerns, noting that Pugachev doesn't always manage his emotions well and can react quickly without fully considering the consequences. He expects Pugachev's relationship with Martin St. Louis to resemble the one Xhekaj has with the current Habs head coach. The good news is, Pugachev still has plenty of time to work in those areas before reaching the NHL. As of August 2026, there is no reason for alarm, but it will be worth watching how the young prospect develops. For a first-round pick, though, you'd like to see a little more, at least according to Grant McKegg. The real test will come during the season. I think that's the biggest thing we should all be talking about here as well, right? Like, it's preseason. MHL preseason. The guy is not putting his best foot effort in, probably. At least I would assume that he's got more in the tank, and he's not leaving it all out there in the preseason. But for Gleb Pugachev to display skills that allow him to play KHL hockey this year, obviously we hope that that becomes a pretty good translatable trait of his as he works his way into the National Hockey League. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. How do you feel about Pugachev and just the way things have started, from being in the MHL preseason to working out with the KHL team? How are you feeling about the way he's developed so far? Thoughts in the comments section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.